As areas near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant are being shelled and a continuous nuclear threat looms over Europe, the UN watchdog is set to inspect the Russian-held nuclear plant this week. The announcement comes after months of negotiations, in which the International Atomic Energy Agency sought to gain access to the facility. The plant is still run by Ukrainian staff under the orders of Russian forces. The IAEA tweeted that the mission would assess physical damage, evaluate the conditions under which staff are working at the plant, and determine functionality of safety and security systems there. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant is the largest of its kind in Europe, and shelling near the plant threatens its safety. The mission, led by IAEA Chief Rafael Grossi, will assess any damage from recent shelling near the plant, which Russia and Ukraine have blamed on each other. Neither Grossi nor the agency specified when they would arrive at Zaporizhzhia, but it's expected to be later this week. Ukraine's energy ministry said it would not comment on the IAEA mission trip for security reasons. The United Nations and Ukraine have called for a withdrawal of military equipment and personnel from the plant to ensure that it is not a target in the conflict. Meanwhile, Ukrainian authorities say that Russia has shelled a city located near Europe's largest nuclear power plant. According to Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, the UN Atomic Watchdog's mission to the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant is one of its most important to date.
We expect from the mission a clear statement of facts of violation of all nuclear safety protocols. We know that Russia is putting not only Ukraine but also the entire world at risk of a nuclear accident.
Well, earlier we spoke to our correspondent Sergio Olmos from Zaporizhzhia on how the upcoming IAEA visit might potentially change the status quo at the nuclear plant.
It would be absolutely essential from where I'm standing. I'm in Zaporizhzhia, just about 30 miles from the nuclear power plant. This area here has been, it includes the radius where local officials have begun handing out iodine tablets to about 400,000 people in this radius. Because of the threat of radiation from the nuclear power plant. We know that the international community would be able to have some assurance because of Ukraine says that Russia's selling the plant. Russia says Ukraine is selling the plant. With this upcoming mission by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the international community would have a little bit of insurance that there is no threat of radiation. They'd be able to see the plant, ascertain any damage, see if everything's working properly. We know that according to Ukraine's state energy company, radiation levels are normal today, but they have been giving updates every day about how citizens should protect themselves should radiation be spewing. And indeed, in the last week, we've had the power be cut from the energy plant. We've had the backup generators kick in, which is the last stopgap for those nuclear reactors to maintain cooling.
We are now being joined by Alexi Pasuk from Kyiv. He is an energy expert at CEE Bankwatch Network. Alexi, thank you for joining us. Let me start by asking, how significant is this inspection by the IAEA? What's at stake here?
Well, I think it's very important from the political point of view, first of all, because it's obvious without the mission that Russia violates agreements which were previously made by the members of the International Atomic Energy Agency that nuclear shouldn't be targeted at any military operation, but it does. And I think it's very much important to keep focus on the power plant, and that's what the mission is doing. I think ideally what they want to achieve is to persuade Russia that they have to demilitarize an area around the power plant so to eliminate the risk of the accident.
And is it thought that the nuclear power plant is at major risk at the moment?
Yeah, it clearly is, because nuclear power plant is basically designed in a way that you can have to constantly be concerned about its safety. It's like you have a nuclear fuel which is constantly produces heat, and if it overheats, it melts, and it overheats when you stop cooling it. And to cool it, you need the whole system of pumps, which basically pump water through the reactor to work. So I think one of the important concerns here is that you don't need to have direct military kind of rocket artillery hit into the reactor to get an accident. What can be a problem is if the site would not have electricity to continue cooling the reactors, and if it will be happening for the long enough time, because there is, of course, a safety measure where you have a diesel generator for electricity production. But if it stays for the long, and if there are mistakes of the staff, then you can have an accident where fuel will melt, and where you will have the release of radioactive gases into the atmosphere. And that's one of the concerns, which is iodine tablets are supposed to reduce the risk. So when radioactive, say, gases into the air with iodine, radioactive iodine, and you have pills beforehand, then the risk is lower. But yeah, it's serious, and I think everybody stresses the fact is that the sole presence of Russian military on the plant is already a concern, because staff at the nuclear power plant should be very focused on the job, and the line of mistakes which have happened there can have very kind of severe impact with the radioactive gases or materials being spread at a very long territory. And then if it's spread, it can stay for a long time there, and that's a concern.
That's all we've got time for. Alexi Pasuk from the CEE Bankwatch Network, thank you very much for your time.